All right, joining us now to discuss is quantum economics analyst Jason Deane. Hello there, Jason. Always a pleasure to have you on the show. So, do you believe that Taproot is already priced in and all the benefits therein? And is that the case?
Well, that's a great question, isn't it? I mean, you've got to understand Taproot is a very technical update. So for people like even you and me, I mean, we're involved in the industry in some way, but we're not involved at the coding level of Bitcoin. And that's really where the magic's happening here, right at that level. So you and I are not going to see much difference on a day-to-day basis at the moment. That'll all come later on as the developments take place. So in terms of market reaction, there's not a lot. That's kind of what I expected. The only time I was really expecting anything significant here was if something went wrong with the Taproot deployment. Because I think I've mentioned to you before in the past that one of the very few scenarios where I see Bitcoin really not succeeding from where we are now is the self-inflicted wound, right? So as we got a little bit closer to Taproot deployment at the weekend, I did start to get a little bit nervous, probably without reason, but I couldn't help start thinking, it works pretty well. Do we really need to play with it? But because of that fear. But no, in terms of market movements, I wasn't really expecting anything at this point.
It's interesting you say that because I did see a tweet from Charlie Lee, the creator of Litecoin, saying that, thanking the Bitcoin network, saying that this was kind of a test net to see if Litecoin should also update its protocol with something similar to Taproot and using Bitcoin as a test net, if you will. So you're saying investors don't really even know about it. So some folks say it is priced in because it's been talked about for months. But you're saying, most investors don't even know about it. So if there aren't events, it'll be likely down the line.
Yeah, I absolutely think that's the case because it is so technical, and that's the thing here. It is deeply technical. For a lot of people, it's not going to make too much difference. I mean, I did have a couple of people tweet me or DM me saying, well, it hasn't made much difference to price. And as I explained, I wasn't really expecting that for any particular reason. But Taproot really starts a new dawn of development. There's a whole lot of new possibilities that lay ahead. And it's those things that we'll probably see affecting price in due course. But it takes a while, I mean, we're still developing SegWit, and that was 4 years ago. It takes a while for this stuff.
It's interesting that you feel a bit of anxiety about it, just whether or not it'll work, how solid it is, and why tinker with something if it's not broken. But I mean, what do you think the significance is of activating Taproot? It was done in a very slow, methodical, process-oriented way. It had to get 90% of miners to signal their support for it. So in terms of looking at the network and the significance, in a democratic way of how it was brought together, I would love to have you weigh in.
Yeah, I mean, as you rightly say, this is deliberately long, a deliberate long and slow process, and it absolutely should be, because we are dealing with a huge amount of money in dollar terms now, and the custodians of that system really must make sure they get this absolutely right going forward. So, as you know, I think I'm a miner. I was sticking for Taproot right from the very, very start, because I believe fundamentally, even though I was nervous about the actual implementation, that Bitcoin needed that extra layer of development. So the idea, remember, is to keep the base layer pretty simple, but allow second layer development. So things like Lightning and other things that we can do through TapScript.
Taking a look at Bitcoin price, where do you see Bitcoin headed?
Well, as you say, we've been consolidating for a while now, and that's a very bullish sign. We have seen the data coming through that's showing that supply and exchanges is still falling overall. So I remain very bullish. I mean, I'm generally very bullish long term anyway, as you know. So I still think that we are looking extremely strong going forward. I think the fundamentals are excellent. I think the demand dynamics that we're seeing are fantastic. And of course, we know the supply ones. So I do think we will be looking at, just in my opinion, higher, a little bit more price discovery for the end of the year. Let's put it that way.
Price target for the end of the year, or in short term versus long term?
Well, long term, of course, it could go anywhere because of the combination of Bitcoin and what we're seeing with increasing money supply. But short term, if you're really going to push me for something for towards the end of this year, I think we are going to be higher than we are now. There are a lot of people forecasting six figures. I think it's possible. I do think it's possible, but it remains to be seen.